So I think we've got most of the people. I'm sure there'll be some other people popping in, but want to be respectful to get started. Welcome to Ticket Playbook. This is our May discussion session. I'm Denise Sickenetter. If you don't know me or haven't seen me, be hard if you've been on another call, but I lead sales and service for Spinzo, and my partner in crime to lead our conversations is Mr. Bill Gertine. So excited to have you guys. We're going to be talking pre-game events. So when we were talking theme nights last month, there were a lot of things and a lot of the theme nights that really were focused a lot on the event before the event, like kind of the pre-party, if you will. So thinking about our the romance book fair that we were talking about, that was all about getting people to meet their favorite authors, to get books, and to talk with each other. So the conversation is around like there's got to be more of these types of things that we can do, right, Bill? So that's what we wanted to focus on and talk about this month.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Denise. And I'm excited to see so many of you here. Thrilled to have you as interested in the topic as we are, because we think there's an enormous amount of potential in the types of things that you may be overlooking or
Mhm.
maybe right under your nose, and you just hadn't thought about using these kinds of spaces before. Denise mentioned the book fairs and the romance novel fairs and the things that are seemingly very positive right now or gaining some traction. And there, most people who are doing these, of course, are finding a space within their venues to be able to host those. I think a few have had to do this in their actual stadiums outside in the stands and the seats, perhaps, and that's a little awkward to be able to have that happen. But what I want to start out by talking about is, first of all, the facilities that you have right now. Take a look around at your building and notice the spaces that could be used pregame or even pre-pregame to be able to host a particular event for someone. And I'm not talking about creating a theme night for them. I'm talking about actually just seeing the square footage that you have and to see what unused assets you have at your disposal. Now, you may have done this in the past, but I think that you need to put a pair of fresh eyes onto this, because there are some things that Denise and I are going to talk about that you may not be aware of that are happening in your community right now somewhere else that could be taking place in your facility with the added bonus of a sporting event attached to it. And so that's the way we want you to think about this, not necessarily about the idea per se, although we'll talk about several of those. But I really want you to expand your brain to think about your stadium as more than simply a place where a game takes place. Where are those event spaces, those facility portions, even your conference room, a closet that you've got a whole bunch of stuff stored in that you could put somewhere else and actually host 20 people. These are the kinds of things that we want to talk about and really consider for your event. And I'll start it off by talking about your local hotels and the meeting spaces that exist. There are people right now spending really good money on hotel space, whether
Mhm.
it be for a mini conference, an annual kickoff for a program that people are doing, whatever it happens to be. Get together with the hotel people or the CVB in town and find a list of those people who on a regular basis rent out space to those particular elements. Now, they may not wish to give that to you, the hotels, because that means less revenue for them. But if you can look online at your local chamber or something else that lists those events, anyone that is spending money anywhere else to be able to use their square footage is prime property for you to be able to use in your facility, whatever it is that they are doing, whether it's a needlepoint conference or a new line kickoff, welcoming a new vice president to the company from another city, whatever happens to be going on in anywhere else can be happening there. And not only within those places, but some of the other halls that are available for rent. If you have a VFW hall or a Mason's hall or some other place that has weddings and the facilities that host those sorts of things, these people also rent their space out to companies and organizations that need a place to be able to do their thing. And you could find that opportunity just as easily in your own facility prior to a game and make it much more sexy and fun to be able to attend. And many times, if there's a regular meeting that you're hosting, and let's just take it's the Lions Club, for example, and many of us have what I call the zoo organizations, the lions, the elks, the moose, whatever it is that you have. The what you have is these regular weekly or monthly meetings that take place. To suggest that you could do one of those meetings at your place would be a very out of the box thinking way to have someone say, yeah, that would be a different way for us to look at it. It's not, you don't need an idea to have them in. They're already going to be meeting. So don't think that you have to have the idea to necessarily utilize the space that you have for a new group outing concept. And Denise, I'll pass it to you because I know you and I were talking a little bit about those types of events that hotels host, and you were talking a little bit about those the types of things that happen for certifications.
Yeah, corporate. I think that's a really great opportunity of looking at all the different career paths that require certification or recertification. They have to host it somewhere. It has to be, many times lawyers or other careers have to take continuing education classes. Would they rather go sit in a hotel all day, or would they rather sit in your, venue and then be able to, after the fact, stay and enjoy the game? Or they could even be at your venue one day and come back to a different game because you could offer some sort of those packages. I mean, job fairs in themselves. I know we do a lot of sports career fairs, but there's job fairs happening all the time. I mean, there's things that are, veteran specific. Could you do something like that tied around your Veterans Day game or a Memorial Day game? I mean, there's lots of different intricacies in corporate that you can kind of take advantage of, and they're people that are A, have jobs, or B, are looking at jobs, or need continuing education to continue to be in their field. And not only when they come in there, they all work for other companies. So that's just an absolute networking mind for you, especially if it's like a continuing education for lawyers. I mean, they all probably work at different firms. Like those are, prospect after prospect after prospect right there sitting in your venue.
Yeah, and you have at your disposal already some season ticket holders that would love to have you pick their brains about their profession. Lawyers are a great example. If you have an attorney who is a season ticket holder or a plan holder that you've known for years, who's been a great supporter of your club, talk to them for 5 minutes. Ask them if you can pick their brain for just a little bit about the continuing education that attorneys need. And by the way, most professions, attorneys especially, hate the fact that they have to take these CEUs. It is like pulling teeth. They will wait till the last minute to be able to do these because it takes away from their own practice and other time that they like to play golf or whatever it is they do. It's just not something they enjoy. And so if you can connect this dreaded thing with a baseball or hockey game or whatever it is that you provide, my gosh, there'd be just music to their ears with regard to that. And in fact, the attorney, might be able to direct you to the people who host those things, and you can get the contact right then and there. So instead of going to a boring hotel room, now you can go to your conference room, get the CEUs out of the way, and then just fall out the door and enjoy the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking something that's a negative and turning it into a positive.
Yeah.
So love it. And I think, flipping outside of corporate, and even with, classes or certifications, we all complain. Well, I shouldn't say we all complain. There's a lot of people that complain about referees and how good or bad they are. But like, why not step into that space and find out who's training referees and have a referee training at your facility, like make sure that they're getting the right training and then they're right in that environment. Coaches, I know there's lots of coaches clinics or coaches training for the volunteers that do coach some of the youth sports teams. Same thing like that. They're going to something to learn to get certified at some point. So why not do it in your facility?
That's brilliant. I want to flip one of the ones that you said earlier with the job fairs, because certainly businesses are hungry for the right candidates right now. One thing I have not seen done, but I would love to be able to see someone do this, is a job candidate fair. I'm going to flip the script a little bit on this. young people or any age people who are looking for work, and there are certainly many of them, if they were to attend a job candidate fair whereby the employers are there to shop them, what you might do prior to that event is have an expert on tips on selling yourself in a job interview and the kinds of things that people might do to be able to brush themselves or polish themselves up so that they might be a better candidate for those who are they're interviewing with. And then at the same time, you could invite the sponsors that you have or the people that you know very well to let them know that, hey, these people are going to be available. And then to allow each person a booth, not just a company booth, but an individual booth. It's a Bill Gertine booth. And here you are, you are the product, while others come and have a chance to say hi to you as the product that they might hire. So again, it's a kind of a flip the script on a very tried and true kind of an activity, but it might be one that's known that would generate enough interest to where you could put a pretty decent sized group outing together, and people that could attend for the price of a group ticket plus a little bit, depending on what your costs are involved with that, could be a real opportunity for someone not only to enjoy a game, but to really learn something about how they can progress or to show themselves as a good candidate for others.
Love that. Sometimes we got to flip things on their head to make them work.
It's just a creative sort of thing. You think about, and it can happen in any situation. Here's another thing you might even flip. Take a look outside your 1 square block area of where you have your own building. Is there a parking lot that's being unused? Is there a building or is there a business there that's somewhat not related to what you do? It's not a food and beverage place. It's not anything else. Maybe it's an accounting office. I don't know. Whatever it might be. Is that a space that you might be able to use for some sort of event if you don't have the right kind of space, to be able to work with that accounting firm to say, hey, can we use this 10 or 12 nights a year, perhaps, in exchange for perhaps a ticket plan of some sort, so that you have an additional space outside, but very close to where you are, so that you have the ability to have them park once and attend both events. So
I think, Bill, the concept that I love too is that looking at your spaces, and if there's spaces you normally sell for hospitality, and I've talked a little bit about the Salt Lake Bees have done a great job of this. They took a space that's normally sold for corporate for a lot of their game dates, but for Sundays it wasn't selling well for corporate. So they flipped it and they said, we're going to have brunch before games. So individual fans can come by the brunch and they can have brunch and then go to the game. So it's not necessarily a new concept, but it's a twist on the concept. But then even thinking about it even further, they actually started doing breakfast for dinner, and they did one night a week where they're doing breakfast for dinner now. But I even think you can go further and look at the Disney example. When you go to Disney with kids, you are clamoring to get those character breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. Why not have a character meal where you rent out princesses or superheroes, wherever you want, and it could be tied to a theme night, throw it into a hospitality space, and now you've got a princess brunch or a superhero brunch or a dinner, and you're now attracting families into that type of a environment. So I think, there was another one that I saw that I used some AI to help with this, like superhero training camps. So could you do some really fun things with kids where you're training them to be superheroes, and it could be physically and mentally, but again, that's what your players are, or your athletes, they're superheroes in their own mind. So how do you train them to be like that? Another concept I really loved on there, the family spaces, and we used to go to these when my kids were little. Kids love touch a truck events. And if you've never been to a touch a truck event, it's basically the fire department, the police department, sometimes the garbage truck. Every young kid loves the garbage truck, right? They stand at the window and watch you go. Bring a touch a truck event into your parking lot. You could tie it into a first responder night, but you promote it as this touch a truck event. They come, they park, they see the trucks, and then they come into your venue. And if you have a venue where you could actually get a truck in the venue, pull it into the venue. It could be tied to a sponsor. It could be, or maybe if you have a car sponsor, maybe it's, you're partnered with, I don't even know who owns Hummer anymore, but, like, and there's a huge Hummer in there, or, I mean, it's just like, and then you could throw, if you guys have a vehicle that's tied to your brand, put your vehicle out there. Let the kids sit in the driver's seat. Like, I mean, these are simple things that can be really fun and attract a whole new market.
Yeah, I love that idea, Denise. The bigger the tires, the better. Kids
Yes.
love big tires. I don't know what it is. Well, and some of us are big kids and we like big tires too. But I think it's construction companies are another main source for these. You think of
Yeah.
those giant end
These bugs
loaders
are
and
attracted to you.
the big scoopers and I don't know what they're called either, but I know they're big and they have big tires. To have some fun with that. Those in rural communities, you can also do this with some of the ag equipment dealers that you have
Yeah.
to be able to jump onto a harvester or some sort of a plow. There are some kids in the inner city who've never seen stuff like that, and it
Hmm.
would be fascinating to them. Might not be for some of the ones that say, geez, this is what I do all day long with dad, but others would be incredibly excited to see
Hmm.
those kinds of machinery. So think outside the box here, gang, and that's what we're encouraging each of you to do.
Yeah.
I
A
would
couple
love to
more
go,
examples.
please.
So quickly, and then we'll throw it to the group. A couple
Yeah.
other examples I wanted to throw out there. So, country line dancing. People love to country line dance. Why can't you create a huge country line dancing night on the concourse and literally play the music throughout the stadium and either, it could be before or after, but then there's someone on the field or the court teaching and dictating, hey, left everyone, and you've got this huge line dancing. The other one, I know there's a lot of fitness or type things, but one that I thought was really interesting is like, and could be a lot of people, is some sort of meditation experience, like where you got someone that's really good at helping drive you through a meditation or guide you through a meditation, and you could have a guided meditation. I know there's a lot of yoga nights, but meditation, you could get so many more people. That's where my mind is like, is that, if we had a guided meditation, prior to the game. And maybe there is a tie to one of your players that actually uses meditation as a preparation tool before a game or a match. So go ahead,
Cool
Bill.
idea.
Apologies. I wanted
In
to throw
fact,
those ideas out there.
if you have some line dancers that really like the team, you could actually ask them to create a dance specifically for your team. If you're I have the Joliet Slammers, which is the closest team to me down in the suburbs of Chicago. You could do the Slammer slide, and they could create this whole thing around this dance that they're going to teach everybody during this thing, and it'd be kind of just
I love
a
it.
fun, novel thing that you might have everyone, and everybody could do it. You don't have to wear cowboy boots and a hat to be able to get that done. Everybody can jump
Mhm.
in. I'm sure there'll be others that weren't prepared for it that would say, "Well, this sounds like fun. I'll jump in."
If you have dancers, if you have team dancers, maybe you can engage with them and say, "Hey, we want you to help with this, and this is, can be cool too."
Perfect. Yeah, that's fun. And these are the kinds of things that, and I want to caution all of you who have to sell somebody else above you on these ideas. Initially, you're going to get pushback. And I want to encourage you to push further. That if you have an idea and you really want to give this thing a shot and you've got a plan, make sure you do have a plan for things. Don't just come, hey, what about this? But to have some, if you do get some pushback, say, look, at least allow me to put together a plan that would show ROI. And if once you've had the chance to really buy into it, don't take the first no for an answer from the higher ups. Because most people are going to want to stick with the tried and true. They're going to say, well, who else has done this successfully? Who can we learn from? And guys, pioneers are, even though they get shot full of arrows sometimes when they go over the hill, pioneers are usually the ones that get some of the credit for doing something brand new. And so I want to just encourage you to think out of the box and think out courageously, and don't let the first no discourage you.
Yeah. Has anyone had successful things that they've done pregame that have, been unique or different or really stuck out? Oh, Dana's asking, has anyone ever done a card show before an event, like trading cards, sports, or Disney? Has anyone done card shows? Because that's another great one.
I can tell you, my son, who's involved in that big time, would absolutely respond to something like that. Card shows, for those who have card shows in your markets, it is an enormously popular thing and has been more
Yeah.
so. Cards have held their value more than just about anything lately, and there's no end in sight at this point.
Yeah.
My son actually does this for a living. He actually buys and sells very high end cards, and he travels to Dallas and to Boston and to Long Beach, California, and all these places who are looking for him to be able to trade these cards. And it's what's interesting is it's a little like a garage sale. When you ask somebody who's somewhat of a novice that bring your cards for sale, the people who really know cards might smell a bargain, and you might have an opportunity. One of the things that I might suggest as a part of a card show is to have some reputable people on site that can do an accurate valuation of the cards
Interesting.
that someone
Okay.
has. You might even get a better response, not necessarily on a card show, but on a card, I don't know what you'd call this, a card
Like an
grading.
evaluation.
Yeah, evaluate. We'd have to come up
Mhm.
with a cool name for it. Put it into AI. I'm sure it'll come up with something. But it then bring your card collection to these experts. A little like what's the show on PBS that always has all the old stuff and they bring it in and they show you the value of things.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't know. Yeah, grading of cards, Paul's saying. Yeah,
Yes.
grading.
Well,
Yeah.
grading is a different thing because grading is something that you send it away to and they decide what the value is and then they get it back to you. Yes, PSA is one of those. You're absolutely right, Dana. And there's a couple of others, and I don't remember the names of them. I'm going to embarrass myself. But you've seen those plastic things that have the little grade placard
Yeah.
on top of that. It's not only to protect the card, but it's also to let people know that this has been graded by an expert and he knows it. The experts I'm talking about would be much more informal, but would give people somewhat of a valuation of what indeed they do have. I can't tell you the number of people my son has had come to them and say, "Hey, could you look at my cards? I think I've got some really valuable ones." And almost every time he has to disappoint them because there's the cards are all bent up and they got writing on them and their corners are a mess. And so I think sometimes people think they have more than they really do. Antiques Roadshow was the thing I was thinking of,
Antique rosary. Yeah.
where people bring in their stuff and then somebody describes what they have and did that. So good. We have another. Jeff, why
Yeah.
don't you go ahead and read that one, Denise?
Yeah, Jeff said for the Manitoba Moose, they invited 12 local card dealers and vendors to their back-to-back minor hockey weekend. It was a success. Sold mystery card packs, common cards, all the vendors. Okay, so there you go, Dana. That would be a great
That's fun. Mystery
example. Love it.
packs. I love the mystery packs thing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great
Outstanding.
idea. Other ideas or other questions about events that you're thinking about doing?
Yeah. Even somebody that has a voice, you can talk on this. We have technology.
I can chime in. Paul Dotson with US Soccer. We're a little bit of an anomaly because we don't have a home venue. So we travel around, and so it's not like a know our space all the time. We do repeat venues, so there's maybe a little bit of that we can build off of. But one thing that we did recently was around our She Believes Cup. So very much around women's empowerment. That term we hosted a few stops there. And one spot in Columbus, we leaned into like a panel. So we had some females from our different departments and functionalities. So sporting on our events team, sales team, different things of that nature, and use that to promote to colleges in the area, especially it was mainly Ohio
Mm.
State, but there's some other smaller ones. So we had like a $20 ticket to the match and come do this panel around female empowerment and kind of like getting into the sports industry, that sort of deal with folks who we already had on boots on ground for the match. And that did decently well for us. We haven't dug too much into this, so that's why I wanted to hop on and see what other ideas we could potentially have. Again, it's a little harder for us not knowing the space that we're walking into and having different agreements with venues and that sort of stuff. But that's something that we did that we found pretty successful around that event.
Good idea.
Love it, Paul. And I think panels are great. And I think that is a similar thing where you can have a panel around women's empowerment. You could have a panel and you could do something specific just around broadcasting or journalism for, kids that are studying that. I mean, there's so many different avenues. You could even for lawyers, let's go back to lawyers, get your chief legal counsel or your legal department to do something tied to lawyers and talk to those lawyers about how they deal with I mean, their job is so much different than other attorneys, and what they deal with and the contracts that they deal with. There could be some really cool things. I think the panel concept could go across a lot of different categories.
Yeah. Looks like we have a comment from Daniel. You want to go ahead and read that one?
Yeah, we find a lot of success with our pregame happy hours in some of our conference rooms and bar areas, featuring drink specials and raffles for pregame experience. Yeah, very simple. Put together a special experience. I mean, I think more so than ever, people want to go to your game, but they want something else. They want something to make the experience bigger. So even if it is a simple happy hour special that they can buy into, I know Orange County Soccer Club does a beer fest, and they have like I think they have 3 or 4 different beer fests planned throughout the entire season, and then they stagger based on you could buy a ticket based on when you want to come in. And I think some of them are more expensive to come in earlier, and then if you want to come in later, it's less expensive. Like, I mean, simple little things like that where you can do, special experiences, or maybe you can get an alumni player in there and it's a meet and greet with the alumni player, or, you know, there's lots of things to do with those types of simple networking events.
Paul, I think of your comment with US Soccer and the different bars in the different communities in which you're going to. Typically, there are soccer bars, and sometimes they're EPL soccer bars, but they happen to be places that people are known to get together to watch soccer matches. And it's an old concept, but it may be worth resurrecting here just to discuss having an event at the bar pregame, a bus to the game,
Yeah.
and a bus coming back to that bar. And of course, everybody's a little more worried about the alcohol content. Maybe you have a free mocktail at the bar after you get back to be able to sober up before you leave in your cars. So I'm not saying this is, just unbelievably new ideas, but, some of the older concepts are worth resurrecting now. So maybe
Yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah, some of
Megan,
our larger matches, we've done
okay.
some night before stuff at local bars or different events and that sort of stuff, but it's not usually traditionally we haven't seen a lot of success selling more tickets, but it's just kind of more of a branding opportunity for us
Ah,
where we get people together and that sort of stuff, whether most of them have tickets already or weren't going to go, but just kind of getting out there. So we didn't see the ticket sales translate from those yet in the ways we've done it, but we have done that sort of deal.
cool.
Megan, can you tell us a little bit more about Love in the Wild? I'm definitely curious to hear about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Megan with the Brooklyn Nets and New York Liberty. A coworker of mine had gotten some insight on a singles event that the Atlanta Hawks ran with a local influencer. And she runs these dating events called Love in the Wild. And we brought her up here to Brooklyn to launch that. And it was actually really cool. We sponsored it under our Modelo Bridge, which was a new group space in Barclays Center. They did personality quizzes and matched up beforehand.
Okay.
The leader of Love in the Wild did that.
Wow.
And it was great. They got in for pregame, got a drink. We had like bingo cards and topics for them to like talk about while they were all mingling. And then we had some matches. So we upgraded them from their SROs in the 200 level and brought them down like courtside. So it was a very fun event.
So the matches were made by the tool that they filled out as the personality test?
They didn't tell them who they were matched up with. They wanted to make that kind of organic. So then if they did end up being each other's match, like that was kind of a cool thing to uncover for themselves.
All right, interesting. I thought
Very
for sure you were
cool.
going to be in Minnesota, being Love in the Wild, but maybe not.
Should they? Yeah, that's a good place to have it.
There you
Anybody
go.
down here from Minnesota or Iowa, that would be a pretty good thing to just grab right now.
I love it. I love it. Other ideas or questions about events?
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
So sorry, Kenya Jones with the Atlanta Hawks. So when
Ah, all
I
right.
heard Megan, when you were just saying that, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds really familiar. We should definitely connect because how that came to be was like so crazy. But yeah, let's connect one day soon. But my question is regarding like what does success look like? So I know every event draws like a different type of crowd, but especially, I feel like some of the pushback that we get as representatives sometimes is like, okay, like of course ROI, like the number of people, right? Especially like for us when we're reserving spaces, right? Like it's like maybe like ticket requirements, or we obviously don't want to take that away from like a different group. So, when we're rolling out these sorts of ideas and things like is that number or like a projected number, is that something to kind of consider as well? Like, hey, like or like does this look successful for 50 people, or is this something like like 100 people, or like where do you guys feel like that the priority in that sort of falls? And obviously if we're talking about more expensive games, like the revenue might be king, but like just kind of wanted to get y'all's insight on like ticket numbers in regards to how feasible some of these ideas might be when we're trying to get them off the ground.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
great
have a
question.
specific I can help with you there, Kenya. I think you have to kind of go out on a skinny branch a little bit and decide that you're going to promote it and you're going to make it happen. And, to be able to predict something like that, perhaps that's why people are so reticent to doing something brand new because they can't predict what it's going to be. I would say every now and then to take a calculated risk on something and pick out a target, not necessarily a goal, but at least this is what we want to hit in this. And if we don't hit that, we'd have to re-explore it, but that's what our goal will be. And if it falls short of that, to still make it valuable and viable for the people that have signed up, and to make sure that whatever you choose to do, it's still viable for whatever number of people end up signing up for it. I would just put that caveat in there. Denise, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think that if it's an event that's happened somewhere else, so if you can find, okay, well, it was a continuing education event that happens, quarterly, and they typically get around 50 people or 60 people, can you use those types of things as kind of your guide to make a guesstimate of where you would fall? I think one of the other things is when you put these types of events together, I think it's really important, and this concept or this nomenclature actually came from Justin Kang at the Ducks, that said, you need an anchor group. So if you're putting something together, do you have an anchor group that's kind of your check and balances? Like they're the one that is, helping you promote potentially. Maybe it is just a single influencer, but they're kind of the one that can give you some insight and say, hey, okay, I know what we typically do. You can say, I know what we do from a Hawks perspective, but you're in this space and you're in this environment and this, niche. What do you think, or where do you think we'll end up? And kind of leaning on that anchor group to help give you some ideas, I think is also very helpful because to your point, Bill's point, yes, you are going to have to kind of walk out on the limb a little bit on this. And I think framing it as a target as opposed to a specific goal is an option. And maybe you look at games that are, you don't have as big of a risk. Could you try a preseason game? Could you try the Skyhawks as opposed to the Hawks, and then work your way up to the Hawks? I mean, there's lots of different, I think, avenues to go down for that too.
Thanks,
So
guys.
great question.
Yeah, very
A really
helpful.
good question. Thanks, Kenya.
And Denise, you
Yeah,
were mentioning happy hours earlier. And one thing I thought of, there's a lot of events in my city that are kind of like afternoon events that are business, like state of healthcare or state of AI, put on by the Chamber of Commerce. And how can you extend their events? So they've already decided to host their event somewhere. Maybe it's going to have 200 people. But because you see it's on the same day as an event, you could contact the organizer and say, why don't you open this up? And we'll extend it and have a pregame happy hour. So now you go
Yeah.
from the state of AI to a pregame happy hour and then the game. So that's something that could be lower risk. And then the organizer of that event can help shepherd the people through.
Good idea.
Love it. Go ahead, Cameron. I know you had a
Hi,
question.
Cameron with San Antonio FC. One idea, and I think another, I can't remember what team does it, and I haven't really like fully thought it through. But there's a lot of like thrift and vintage like pop-ups that go on, like especially around like our city, and I think that's like one idea. I know there's like a lot of loopholes and like branding and things like that, but I think that would be really cool, especially for teams that have like have long establishments, right? And like have
Yeah.
that vintage apparel and things like that they could sell. But like even for us on our side, like just vintage soccer kits like go for a lot. And I know there's a lot of collectors. So just like an idea that I've had, but I haven't really like fully thought through. But if anyone's done anything like that or knows anything, then take any help.
It's
like
a hot topic right now. I think vintage clothing and vintage of any kind does have a growing popularity, and I think you're onto something. I don't know if anyone's done that like that, but let's open it up. Let's see if anybody's done something similar. You're a pioneer, Cameron.
Probably not. I've definitely seen it somewhere. Like, I can't remember who it was, but
On this call, you are. On this call, you're a
Okay, there you
pioneer.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. I think what it does allow you to do is perhaps get some input from some of the people locally who might be influencers in that space
Yeah.
and ask what their suggestions might be to be able to improve it. And if there's somebody that could be a spokesperson for that, then I think that you'd probably get a better idea of what would work well. I recall many years ago when minor league baseball was first starting their Copa de la Diversión, which is the fun cup, if you translate it properly. Many of the teams had to come up with a Spanish surname and a whole identity surrounding their teams, and many of them chose names that didn't compute with the heritage that they were trying to convey. And so those who did it really well had people as almost a sounding board of advisors that would help them through some of these things because they didn't have the knowledge that was necessary for that. So I might suggest you do that same thing, Cameron.
And then I also had a question, I guess, that kind of came through this. For like some of the other teams, I guess when you're having these like pre-events, like Love in the Wild, right? Or you had like an influencer that kind of like took lead on that. Do you think I mean, I know it varies depending on what the event is, but looking to like a group that they sell to their database, or are you selling it? Like if we have a yoga event, right? Like a pre-match yoga event, and we, book a yoga studio, like they're the ones that are going to come out. Do you think the focus is, obviously it's a combination of both, but having them push it out more, or like is that something that everyone thinks like we should push out more? I know I'm not wording that correctly, but I think it's looking at like if they have the database for it, like are you asking them to share that with you when you reach out, or just they're doing the outreach on their own and we're doing separate outreach?
Denise, you want to start?
Well, Megan, you unmuted. Do you want to speak to some of that, what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, transparently, I feel like this past season we had a lot of new groups, new ideas like this, where it was kind of influencer driven. And it was one of those things where it came heavily from both sides. Like we were doing the reposting on our very own social media, like my personal. I live here in New York. I was like, I know people. I know, 20, 30, 40-year-olds who would come to this event. And so it was great to be able to work with our marketing team too, to overlook the different types of posts we could do collaboratively. We took kind of an interesting take on it and had another influencer who was more like food based. And so he was going around trying all the different food, and then we were putting together a special link to be able to come and do that and give your own reviews on food. But again, it was all very pushed out by both parties, just because we knew this is gonna be a first run, and we would then collect all that data and those folks' information at the end of it, and hopefully they'll be the drivers for next season.
I think
Oh, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, well, I just think it should be a shared vision of both databases working together, that you're pushing out the same thing. And I think anyone you partner with who isn't into wanting to push their side probably isn't the best partner to work with to begin with.
Yes, yeah. Totally agree. And I think if I would say just from a technical perspective, I think it's really smart to make sure that those are different links that you can track. So you can see based on who's pushing. Is the influencer actually really driving most of the volume? Or if you guys are driving most of the volume and you've given some sort of incentive or paid to the influencer, are they really earning what they're supposed to be? You know what I mean? Should we really have paid them this much, or we pushed it all ourselves? So I think that's also, I make sure that you can definitely track where people are coming from and, who's driving the actual conversions.
Right. So, don't forget, your brand has value, and you may not have to pay your influencer If they're getting connected with you, a known brand, an entity in the marketplace, it may be enough for them simply to be in your building and to do some filming there that they get access to that no one else would. So don't underestimate the value of your brand.
100%. Great point. So I know we've run over time. Are there other questions? We can keep the conversation going as well. So I just want to be respectful of, feel free to drop if you have to, but other ideas or questions that anyone wants to bring to the table or to the group?
No, just just to echo what was said earlier with some of the others that if you do want to think about doing something, ask a few people that really know that subject or that industry and ask their opinion on what the market is like. You're not going to fit all the people in your building, with 10 or 20 or 30 or however many in there. That's not a full range of respect, the kinds of experiences people have. You have to ask outside your own four walls to find out what things are. If you're going to do a Magic the Gathering event, and nobody plays Magic the Gathering at your place, you really don't know from where to even go. So do a good job of research and just do what's necessary so that you ensure its success.
100%. 100%.
All right.
Any other questions? All right. Well, hopefully everyone got stuff out of this call. It was very fun. Our June call is going to be June 18th at 2:30 Eastern, and we're going to kind of flip it to you guys. So we're going to talk a lot about reps and the roles that you guys play and how do you prevent burnout and get to performance goals. So it's kind of a modern sales rep survival guide is what we're going to talk about. So as you register, it's available on ticketplaybook.com. There's a quick question about kind of challenges in your role. It'll be anonymous. We won't be putting people's answer or questions up there, but we want to get some questions that kind of start the conversation. But this is really, really about you. So from burnout, balance, and performance, like how do you do it all? Because there's a lot on your plate. We know. So let's help each other be our best selves. So can't wait to see you guys in June. Thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.